Do you know how powerful Russia really is? Yes, Russia is one of the most powerful military forces on Earth, ranked second in the world. Imagine this. They have about 1.1 million active soldiers and another 1.5 million reserves ready to join if needed. That's like having millions of people trained and waiting to defend their country or fight. But that's not all. Russia has the largest nuclear weapons stockpile on the planet. Weapons so powerful they could change the world forever. Every year, Russia builds over 1,500 new tanks. Think about that. Thousands of armored vehicles, hundreds of missile systems, and a navy with powerful warships, submarines, and even an aircraft carrier. In 2025, Russia's military budget was over $172 billion. That's almost 8% of their entire economy going straight into weapons, planes, tanks, and ships. It shows how serious they are about their military strength. Now, imagine if such a force decided to invade Europe. The world would tremble. Russian troops would gather at Europe's borders. Tanks would roll in endless columns. Skies would fill with helicopters and fighter jets, and the seas would darken with warships ready to strike. Russia wouldn't be acting alone. They have friends inside Europe who would help. Countries like Hungary, Serbia, and Belarus would open routes for supplies, share secrets, and support Russia politically. Countries right on the border, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland, would face the first attacks. Russian artillery would roar, fighter jets would streak through the sky, and armored vehicles would push forward relentlessly. By the end of this first stage, Europe's eastern edge would be scorched with fire and destruction. The invasion would have begun, and the whole world would watch in alarm. But the moment Russian troops cross into Europe, the response would be immediate. Great powers like Britain, France, and Germany wouldn't hesitate. Their armies, filled with modern tanks, missiles, and fighter jets, would rush to the front lines to defend their neighbors. Then the conflict would grow even more dangerous when Russia hits a NATO country in Europe. NATO isn't just European countries. It includes America and Canada, two of the strongest military forces in the world. The United States would bring its huge air fleet, over 2,600 fighter jets, including the stealthy F-22 Raptors and the new F-35 Lightning IIs. They'd also send strategic bombers like the B-2 Spirits, capable of flying thousands of kilometers to hit key targets. The U.S. armored forces would roll out thousands of tanks, backed by submarines and aircraft carriers ready for battle across the Atlantic Ocean. Europe would also join the fight with Britain, sending hundreds of tanks, fighter jets, and ships, while Germany, France, and other NATO countries bring thousands more tanks, armored vehicles, and planes. Suddenly, the seas would fill with warships, the skies would swarm with fighter jets and bombers, and the ground would shake with the movement of massive armies. Russia would have some help, Iran sending missiles and drones, North Korea sending artillery and armored vehicles. But compared to NATO's combined power, these allies would be small players. What Russia faces now is the united military might of two continents, Europe and North America, armed with the most advanced weapons on Earth, backed by satellites, cyber warfare, and precise guided missiles. This would no longer be a simple invasion. It would be a massive, high-tech war of strength against technology, numbers against precision. The skies would burn with the fire of destroyed fuel depots. The seas would churn with submarine battles. And the ground would quake with the movement of armored divisions pushing forward. Russia had prepared for a fight, but what awaits them is far stronger and more advanced than they expected. But war is not just fought with weapons and soldiers, it's also fought with money and resources. Russia's economy would start to crack under the pressure of this war. Europe, once Russia's biggest customer for energy and trade, would cut off all business. Sanctions from NATO countries would choke the flow of money, cutting off Russia's financial lifelines. Despite this, Russia would push forward with everything they have: millions of soldiers, thousands of aircraft, helicopters, tanks, and a navy with hundreds of ships. They would throw their full military power against Europe's defenses. But Europe would not be weak. The combined forces of Europe, the United States, and Canada would stand as a massive wall, with thousands of tanks, armored vehicles, jets, warships, and the most advanced stealth technology ever made. NATO fleets would patrol the seas, bombers would fill the skies, and satellites would watch every move on the battlefield. What Russia thought would be a quick, decisive strike would turn into a long, exhausting, and costly war. A war that would drain Russia's strength faster than it could recover. Over time, the harsh reality would hit Russia hard. The cost in soldiers, weapons, and money would be too great to hide. Tens of thousands of soldiers lost, hundreds of aircraft destroyed, and billions of dollars burned every month. Inside the country, millions would start questioning the war. Outside, the world would see the destruction and loss. Entire cities turned to rubble and millions of civilians displaced. What began as a show of strength would start to look like a slow defeat. Russia might be forced to stop. But there's one terrible and dangerous choice left. If Russia chooses to use nuclear weapons, everything changes in an instant. One nuclear launch, carrying a warhead with the power of 50 megatons, would set off a chain reaction. The United States and other nuclear powers, with more than 12,000 nuclear warheads combined, would respond in kind. Missiles would fly across oceans at over 20 times the speed of sound, striking cities and military bases within minutes. Small countries caught in the middle would be destroyed completely. The world would fall into chaos. The sky would turn dark for years, blocking out the sun. Economies would collapse, losing trillions of dollars overnight. Millions, maybe billions, would lose their lives from blasts, radiation, and starvation. No country would be safe. No place would escape the damage. This would not just be a war between nations. It would be the end of the world as we know it. War is not a victory for any one country. When nations fight, all countries suffer damage, economically, socially, and morally. Even the strongest powers, the United States, China, and Russia, cannot escape the devastation of a global conflict. Their cities, economies, and people would all pay a terrible price. War does not bring glory or lasting strength. It brings loss, fear, and destruction on a scale no one wants to imagine. For the sake of our world, all nations must choose peace. They must come together to protect the future of the planet and ensure safety for generations to come. The true strength of a nation lies not in weapons or armies, but in its ability to build bridges, find common ground, and work together. Do you think Russia would take such a risk? No, no powerful nation wants to destroy the future it built. A world war has no winners, only survivors. Peace must be protected. For more on world powers and history, subscribe to Epic Nations.